The topic for our discussion today will be how information technology won't create better jobs for most people, and how, as a result of this, there will be lower standards of living for most people. The roadmap for our discussion will be to talk about how information technology has produced automation and how this is leading to industry collapse. From there, we'll discuss how IT is causing lower standards of living for most. And finally, we'll end off with a case study on the topic. To begin, we'll discuss automation and how the rise of AI has led to the fall of human labor and services. So next, we'll begin by showing you a brief video on this topic.
How long do you think it will take before machines do your job better than you do? Automation used to mean big, stupid machines doing repetitive work in factories. Today, they can land aircraft, diagnose cancer, and trade stocks. We are entering a new age of automation unlike anything that's come before. According to a 2013 study, almost half of all jobs in the US could potentially be automated in the next 2 decades. But wait, hasn't automation been around for decades? What's different? And then, only a few moments ago in human history, the information age happened. Suddenly, the rules were different. Our jobs are now being taken over by machines much faster than they were in the past. That's worrying, of course, but innovation will clearly save us, right? While new information age industries are booming, they are creating fewer and fewer new jobs. In 1979, General Motors employed more than 800,000 workers and made about $11 billion US. In 2012, Google made about $14 billion US while employing 58,000 people. You may not like this comparison, but Google is an example of what created new jobs in the past. Innovative new industry.
A very interesting statistic that was mentioned in that video was how 45% of American jobs are at high risk of being automated in the next 2 decades. This research was performed by individuals at Oxford, and they were specifically in the program studying the impacts of future technology on the economy. They looked at 700 different job types across various industries in the United States, and they found that at the rate of current technological progression, 45% of these jobs would be at high risk of being automated. Information tech is also not replacing the jobs that is destroyed. Low-skill industries are facing immense pressure from automation. This pressure has been increased recently due to advancements in AI and robotics. This advancement has led to lower costs of these products, and these lower costs has resulted in greater adoption in the industry. Especially vulnerable fields are transportation and logistics, production labor, and administrative support. An example of this is with self-driving cars. The transportation industry in the US is already about to collapse, and this is very similar for other developed countries. Self-driving cars are already being tested on roads, and experts believe them to be between 5 to 10 years away from mass adoption. An example of an industry that is at high risk is the trucking industry, which was worth $672 billion in 2016. Tech giants such as Apple, Google, and Uber have spent billions of dollars on research and development into self-driving technologies. Now, they hope to be able to produce these technologies and transfer them into the trucking industry and try and gain an advantage in terms of being able to have their trucks run continuously 24 hours a day, and thus they can pocket the revenue that would be normally kept by drivers. IT automation won't benefit most people. It will create highly skilled jobs, but these jobs that are created will not outpace industry collapse elsewhere, and thus the number of jobs will be much smaller than the ones that they have destroyed. It will also lead to greater differentiation between the rich and the poor. Highly skilled jobs means highly paid workers, but industry collapse means low income, and thus areas such as manufacturing as well as services will suffer greatly. As a result, most people will not benefit and thus will have a lower income and a lower standard of living because of IT.
In addition to automation, tech outsourcing is responsible for causing lower standards of living as companies seek workers with lower labor costs. Information technology outsourcing is when jobs that used to go to workers in developed countries are sent to IT workers in other developing countries, and in this case, with lower wage. IT jobs can be done anywhere, which makes outsourcing much easier. This has become a serious issue for developed countries like United States, as for example, India and China provide a large pool of expert proficient IT workers at low cost. A company that has moved its factory overseas to take advantage of low labor costs will want its technology workers near its manufacturing plant. This means that high-skilled jobs are lost in perspective of developed countries locally, along with low-skilled jobs as well. One of the major reasons of this outsourcing is the high wage of technology workers in developed countries due to IT growth. In fact, an entry-level IT worker makes 7,000 a year in China and 8,400 in India, while in countries like United States, they earn well above 60,000. That's because the cost of living is cheaper in these countries, which means that the loss of these jobs in countries with high cost of living will cause serious issues with their standards of living. The worst part is that tech outsourcing leaves no replacement of any similar sort. Huge part of job cluster just vanishes. As a result, laid-off workers and their families face serious economic problems, which demolishes their standards of living. This will just continue from industries to industries and countries to countries, as is the nature of information technology.
Let us show some examples of how AI is being used to replace workers around the world. In China, a tech factory replaced 90% of its workers with robots, which helped improve its productivity by 162.5%. This isn't a relatively new decision, as other Chinese companies are starting to implement this change, like Foxconn, a manufacturer of Apple products known for its poor working conditions and low wages. Foxconn plans to have fully automated plants in the next 5 to 10 years. China, which is known for its manufacturing sector, could lose a lot of factory workers to automation as its government strives to replace humans with robots and provide subsidies to companies that use and build robots. Another example of a service industry losing jobs is the retail industry. The retail industry makes 10% of the entire working population in the States alone and is at a high risk of computerization. It is predicted that 30 to 50% of retail jobs could be lost to automation worldwide. Companies like Walmart, Kroger, and Amazon are exploring ways that consumers can shop without interacting with a cashier. When Amazon announced its Amazon Go grocery store that features no checkout counters, this sparked some competition among the grocery store giants, which feared they might be left behind. Companies like Walmart are now introducing a scan and go feature, which lets consumers scan their grocery products and pay for it either through an app or at a self checkout kiosk without the intervention of a human. This puts the jobs of cashiers and salespeople at risk. However, retail isn't the only sector at risk, and MIT research suggests that as AI continues to be implemented and developed, other professions such as law, financial services, education, and medicine can also be automated. With the existing technology now, about 45% of activities people are paid to do can be automated. An example of this is the Japanese insurance company that replaced most of its staff for IBM's AI assistant Watson. Watson is able to answer calls from customers, and based on keywords and stored data, it can analyze a customer's insurance claim. It is predicted that by 2030, as many as 800 million jobs could be lost to automation. Out of that 800 million, 75 to 375 million may need to switch occupational categories and learn new skills which they may not have the capacity to do so. Finally, our conclusion. In conclusion, we talked about automation and industry collapse and how the rise of AI increases productivity but reduces the number of jobs available, and how it doesn't benefit most people as the wage difference between rich and poor will continue to increase. We also talked about tech outsourcing and how company outsources jobs to developing countries due to lower labor costs, and how this in turn reduces the standard of living for most as there are fewer jobs left. Finally, we also did a case study and looked at how automation is affecting employment rates in different industries. Thank you and bye.